My sister's text hit my screen like a slap. If you are not going to watch all four kids, then do not even come. There was no, hey, no softener, no, how are you? Just that all-caps ultimatum sitting there in the Carter family group chat like a courtroom verdict. 3 seconds later, my parents chimed in to back her up. Mom, your sister is right. Dad, family holidays are about helping. Do not be difficult, Camille. I stood in the middle of my small Phoenix condo phone, glowing in my hand the scent of cinnamon and pine, drifting from the candle on my coffee table. Around me on the rug, there was a perfect chaos of metallic wrapping paper, velvet ribbons, and neat stacks of gifts I had spent weeks choosing. That was when it finally clicked into place. I was not a daughter in this family. I was a resource. My name is Camille Carter, and at 31 years old, I have become an expert at two things: extinguishing digital fires and pretending it doesn't hurt. When the people I love use me like a tool, I work as a senior security engineer for Vertex Shield Systems. When a hospital's database is under attack at 3 in the morning, they call me. When a bank in London is seconds away from losing millions to a breach, they page me. I am calm. I am precise. I find the loose thread in the code and pull until the whole attack unravels. At work, that makes me a hero. In my family, it makes me invisible. I set my phone face up on the coffee table and tried to pretend that text did not make my stomach drop. Outside my window, the Arizona night was cool and dry. Inside, Frank Sinatra's Christmas album hummed softly through my speakers. It was supposed to be a cozy night, one last round of gift wrapping before I flew out to Colorado in 2 days, for the once-in-a-lifetime Carter family Christmas. A Christmas I had paid for. I smoothed a strip of deep blue paper around a box, noise-canceling headphones for my dad, the exact model he wanted for his audiobooks. I had read reviews for 2 hours to pick them. My fingers were moving on autopilot, crisp folds, perfect corners. My brain was stuck on a different loop. If you are not going to watch all four kids, then do not even come. I picked up the next present, a wooden dollhouse made from sustainable maple for my niece Grace. My sister Olivia had gone through a phase about no plastic toxins in the house a few months ago. She had probably forgotten. I had not. I never forgot. I glanced at the color-coded folder on my kitchen counter stuffed with printed boarding passes, rental car confirmations, emergency contacts, and a detailed itinerary for our week at Silver Elk Chalet, a luxury cabin outside Breckenridge, Colorado. I had booked every inch of that trip: flights, chalet, snowboard lessons, grocery delivery, even a private chef for Christmas Eve, so my mother would not guilt me into cooking while everyone else watched football. The total, $49,200. My entire end-of-year bonus. All my travel points, too many late nights on a glowing screen. I had told myself it was worth it. That if I engineered the perfect holiday, my family would finally see me. Not as a babysitter, not as a backup wallet, but as an equal. I should have known better. My phone buzzed again. Olivia. So, can you confirm you are going to handle them most of the time? Brad and I need a break. I stared at the words. At handle them like they were a messy load of laundry. At need a break as if I did not. I took a breath and typed slowly. So if I am not babysitting all four kids, I am not welcome. The answer came back before I could even set the phone down. Exactly. We do not need someone just coming to eat and leave. I felt something inside my chest go very, very still. Not shattered, not yet. Clicked, like a deadbolt finally sliding into place. To understand why that text was the line for me, you would have to understand how the Carter family has always worked. Growing up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, roles were assigned like chores. My older sister Olivia was the sun-loud, emotional, always in motion. People revolved around her. Teachers adjusted assignments because she was overwhelmed. Mom drove across town to bring her the cheerleading uniform. She forgot Dad stayed up late to help her finish science projects. She started the night before. Me, I was the floor. Steady, quiet, taken for granted. If Olivia broke a vase, I swept it up. When she forgot her lunch, I split mine. No one had to remind me to do homework or pick up after myself, so no one praised me for it either. Camille is low maintenance, Mom would say, like it was a compliment. It was permission to ignore me. That script never changed. It just got more expensive. Olivia married Brad right out of college, moved 15 minutes from my parents, and started having babies like it was her job. 4 in 6 years. My parents worshipped them all. They called Olivia a supermom whenever she managed to show up to anything in clean clothes. I left. I took a position in Phoenix, traded humid Oklahoma summers for desert sunsets and tech culture. I told myself distance would force them to grow up to stop leaning on me. Instead, it just turned me into a remote control. Need mom's prescription filled, but she forgot her wallet. Call Camille. She will order it online. Need a new router because the Wi-Fi mysteriously stopped working after Noah jammed crayons into it. Camille will send one. Need cash because the car broke down and Brad's paycheck has not hit yet. There is always my card. At work, when I calm a room full of frantic executives, I get stock options and plaques. At home, when I bail them out, I get told that I am just doing what family does. So when Mom called in early October, voice trembling with emotion, I had waited my whole life to hear. I let myself believe. "We need a real Christmas, honey," she had said. "No rushing between houses, no store-bought pies, just us in the snow, like the movies. Can you help us plan something? It would mean the world." I can still feel the way my chest had gone warm and stupid at those words. Just us, mean the world. I did what I always do when someone hands me a vague wish. I built a system. I researched mountain towns, weather patterns, flight paths from Phoenix and Tulsa. I found Silver Elk Chalet, perched above a frozen river, all exposed beams and floor-to-ceiling windows. 6 bedrooms, a bunk room for the kids, a stone fireplace that begged for cocoa and stories. It cost more than my first car. I booked it anyway. I bought 8 round-trip tickets, my parents, Olivia and Brad, their 4 children. Me, I reserved 2 SUVs with snow tires and heated seats. I paid extra for flexible fares and full trip insurance because my family is unpredictable and I am not stupid. At night, after closing out security tickets and watching green dashboards at Vertex Shield, I would pull up the chalet photos and imagine us there, laughing, resting, maybe even saying thank you. I wrapped that fantasy around myself like a blanket. I did not realize yet that I was also wrapping my own noose. 48 hours before that text, I drove from Phoenix to Olivia's suburb on a quick visit. Just needed to drop off laminated itineraries and pick up some extra gifts she wanted me to fit in my checked luggage. I should have known better than to think I would be in and out. Her front yard was a minefield of plastic ride-on trucks, abandoned on the walkway. A deflated bounce house slumped against the fence like a fallen giant. Sidewalk chalk ground into the concrete in neon streaks. The front door, as always, was wide open. "Hello," I called, stepping over a pile of muddy shoes. "Kitchen," she shouted back, voice high and frayed. The scene looked like a disaster response drill. An open suitcase sat on the island, overflowing with wrinkled clothes. There were 3 different types of cereal congealing in bowls on the counter. Toys and half-folded laundry covered the chairs. Olivia stood barefoot by the suitcase, throwing clothes into it, without looking. Ponytail sagging, a smear of something sticky on her cheek. Brad sat at the table, thumbs scrolling his phone, one ankle lazily crossed over the other. He did not look up. "Thank God you are here," Olivia said, shoving a stack of crumpled papers into my hands. "These are medical forms for the kids. If something happens in Colorado, I lost Noah's insurance card. Can you call and get the number? And Grace needs a diaper change. She is in the living room." I have not sat down since 6 this morning. I was still holding my car keys. "Hi, Liv," I said. "Hi, Brad." Brad grunted. "Hey, Cam. Big trip, huh? I hope this place has good Wi-Fi. I am not missing the bowl games." I set my purse on the only clear patch of counter space. "I actually have a deadline tonight," I said. "Crisis at the office. I can stay for a bit, but I need to get back and finish monitoring a deployment." Olivia froze, eyes wide, like I had confessed to a crime. "You have no idea how lucky you are," she snapped. "You get to sit in an office and then come home to silence. I have 4 kids. I need you to help Grace's diaper, please." It was the please that stung. She only used it when she meant you have no choice. I swallowed, nodded, and went to find my niece. Grace was in the living room, sitting among a fortress of pillows and toy blocks, happily chewing on a remote. She grinned when she saw me. "Aunt Cammy," she shrieked, sticky hands reaching. At least someone was happy I existed. I changed her, wiped her face, and carried her back to the chaos. By then, my parents had arrived, as if summoned by the smell of guilt. Mom was already folding clothes that Olivia had thrown into the suitcase. Dad was leaning against the fridge, eating a cookie straight from the package. "Oh, look at our world traveler," Mom said, Miss Big Tech. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Dad," I said, balancing Grace on my hip. Your sister is running herself ragged, Mom sighed, smoothing out a shirt. You really should have come earlier to help her pack, sweetheart. You know how overwhelmed she gets? I forced a smile. I was working, I said security patch rollout. I was actually on a call when you texted. We all work, Dad said in his sermon voice. But family comes first. Olivia has her hands full with the next generation. That is a full-time job. Times 4. Olivia beamed at that, Brad smirked. I looked at my father. This man who had bragged about my salary to his golf buddies while simultaneously acting like my job was a hobby. I am not arguing that parenting is hard, I said carefully. I am saying maybe Brad could help with some of the packing if Liv is drowning. Silence. The kind that always meant I had stepped out of my assigned role. Brad finally looked up, offended. I pulled an extra shift yesterday. He said I am wiped. This is her lane. Why do you always make things a competition, Camille? Competition. As if asking for basic fairness was some twisted game. Mom jumped in fast. Do not start, she said sharply. You know how sensitive your sister is right now, Camille. You are single. You have the bandwidth. Just do what you do best. Organize. That is the thing about compliments in a toxic family. They are just prettier chains. I spent the next 2 hours there. I reorganized Olivia's carry-on so security would not confiscate her oversized liquids. I hunted down Noah's missing shoe. I made grilled cheese for Lily and Max because they were whining, and no one else moved. The adults sat. They laughed about football, about a neighbor's ugly lawn decorations, about some television show. Occasionally, Mom would toss over Cam, do not forget the kids' vitamins, as if I were the nanny. Around 7, as I was zipping up the last bag, I heard Olivia in the hallway, voice pitched up into her good girl, talking to relatives tone. Yes, Aunt Carla, she said into the phone. We are finally doing that big snowy family Christmas. It was so much work getting it all together. I found this amazing cabin up in Colorado right by the river. I told Brad, our kids deserve real memories, you know. So we just made it happen. The words hit me like a snowball with a rock in the middle. I found this cabin, I made it happen. No mention of my bonus. No mention of my planning. In Olivia's version, I was a footnote at best. Yeah, my sister is tagging along, she added, laughing lightly. It will be good for her to get out of that apartment. She helps with the kids, so that is nice. Tagging along. Like a stray dog following a parade. Something shifted inside me then. Not a dramatic shatter, a quiet rearranging, a recognition. I finished what I was doing, put on my coat. I have to go, I said, stepping into the living room. Drive safe, Dad said, eyes still on the television. Do not forget to pick us up at 6 sharp on Thursday. You know your mother hates waiting at airports. 6 sharp, I repeated. Thanks for the help, Olivia called from the hallway, still on the phone. Love you. Love you too. I lied, the words metallic on my tongue. On the drive back to Phoenix, the highway was dark and mostly empty. My phone lit up occasionally with new logistic demands. I ignored them. I kept seeing that phone pressed to Olivia's ear, hearing the words tagging along echo through my skull. They really believed it. In their minds, the trip just existed the way electricity appears when you flip a switch. They had no idea what it cost. Not yet. On the night the group chat turned into a firing squad, my brain felt like it had been put through a shredder. We had just finished mitigating a major threat at work, a coordinated attack on a hospital network in Chicago. I had spent 11 straight hours staring at logs and packet captures, watching for patterns the way other people watch storms. By the time I drove home, my eyes burned and my neck ached. All I wanted was silence, a glass of red wine, and maybe one episode of some mindless cooking show before I crawled into bed. My condo greeted me the way it always did. Soft lamplight, clean counters, the faint hum of the fridge. No toys, no cereal stuck to the floor. No one screaming my name. For years, I had looked at this quiet and felt like it was proof of some failure, proof that I had lost at the game of life that Olivia seemed to be winning. Tonight, the quiet felt like a shield. I poured myself a generous glass of Merlot and leaned against the counter, letting my shoulders drop for the first time all day. Then my phone chimed. Ding. The Carter family thread lit up with 3 new messages in rapid succession. Olivia. If you are not going to watch all 4 kids, then do not even come. Mom. Your sister is right. Dad. Christmas is about helping family. Do not be difficult. I stared at the screen. I read it once, then again, as if there had to be some missing context. We had not argued. There had been no discussion. The last time we spoke, Olivia had been bragging about how she found the chalet. No warning, just a rule. If you are not free childcare, you are not welcome. My heart did not race. That was the oddest part. Normally, conflict sends my pulse into my throat. Instead, everything inside me went dangerously quiet. I set the wine down untouched. I typed slow and deliberate. So just to be clear, if I do not babysit all 4 kids, I am not allowed to come on the trip I paid for. The typing dots appeared immediately under Olivia's name. Spot on. We do not need someone just coming to eat and leave. Eat and leave. My eyes flicked to the corner of my living room, where stacks of wrapped gifts sat like tiny monuments. The handcrafted dollhouse, the custom snowboard for Noah, the personalized stockings I had embroidered, the chef I had booked so Mom would not have to cook, the SUVs, the chalet. Eat and leave. They truly did not see it. They did not see the nights I stayed late to earn the bonus that paid for this fantasy. They did not see the hours I spent on hold with travel agents, the spreadsheets, the backup plans. In their minds, all that mattered was whether my hands were free on Christmas morning to keep their children from climbing the banister. I waited. I waited for Mom to soften it, for Dad to say, "Now that is not what she meant," for anyone to say, "Of course you are welcome, Camille. We are just stressed." Nothing. The chat went still. They had spoken. They were waiting for my surrender. I imagined what they expected from me standing there in my quiet kitchen, a flurry of apologies, a desperate bargain. "I am sorry, I will help more. Please let me come." For 31 years, that is who I had been. The girl who bent herself into shapes to fit whatever hole needed filling. But something had cracked loose inside me on that drive back from Olivia's house. And now this text shoved it the rest of the way free. I thought about the word Mom liked to use when I said, "No difficult. Do not be difficult. In my family, difficult was code. For you are making us treat you like a person." I lifted the phone again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. For a moment, the old script fought back. The part of me that feared exile, that feared being truly alone for the holidays, told me to capitulate, to swallow my anger in exchange for a seat at a table where no one saw me. Then my eyes landed on the folder labeled Travel on my home screen. Inside that folder were the keys to everything they thought they owned. The flights, the chalet, the cars, the prepaid snowboard lessons, the chef. All of it sat on top of my credit card. A slow, cold clarity slid over me. The same feeling I get when I see the signature of a hacker in a log file and know exactly how to shut them out. I typed one sentence. If that is the condition, then my money is not coming either. Then I closed the Messages app and opened the airline instead. The screen glowed bright white against the dim kitchen. I logged into my airline account thumbprint, unlocking a list of upcoming trips. There it was, a Tulsa to Denver. 8 passengers. First class for my parents because Dad's back cannot handle coach anymore. Premium seats for Olivia and Brad main cabin, plus for the kids, so they would have room to kick their legs. I tapped Manage. A red button waited at the bottom of the screen. Cancel reservation. The airline had warned me when I booked. Refundable fares cost more. I had clicked yes, without hesitation. I knew my family. I knew chaos. I just never imagined I would be the one to pull the plug. "Are you sure you want to cancel this trip for all travelers?" the confirmation window asked. Yes. A few seconds of spinning. "Your trip has been canceled. A full refund of $8,600 will be returned to the original form of payment within 7 business days." An email notification hit my inbox almost instantly. I swallowed. My fingers trembled a little, not from fear but from the surge of adrenaline that comes when you finally yank out a knife you have pretended is not there. Next, the chalet. I opened the rental app. Silver Elk Chalet shimmered on the screen. All golden windows and snow-dusted pines. "Reservations starting in 2 days," it read cheerily. I tapped Details. Cancel reservation. Because I had paid extra for full protection, I still had a narrow window to back out without penalty. Less than 2 days. They had sent that ultimatum just in time for me to save every dollar. They had no idea. "Please tell us why you are canceling," the form prompted. I clicked Other. In the comment box, I typed 3 words: Toxic Family Dynamics. "Your reservation has been canceled. $12,800 will be refunded to your card." Ding. Another email. I moved quickly now. SUV rental canceled. Snowboard lessons for Noah and Lily canceled. Christmas Eve chef canceled with a small fee. I paid gladly, just for the satisfaction of imagining my mother's face when she realized no one was going to serve her prime rib in a mountain chalet. Within 5 minutes, the entire elaborate scaffolding of the Carter family dream vacation was gone. Just like that, I opened the group chat again. It had been silent since Olivia's last message. They were probably in the living room somewhere in Tulsa. Phones resting on knees waiting for my capitulation. Instead, I dropped a grenade. I typed, "Cool. Then my $49,200 is staying home with me, and so am I. Send." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. So I helped them understand. I took a screenshot of the airline cancellation, making sure every traveler's name was visible under a bold red word "canceled." I sent it. Mom replied almost immediately. "Camille, stop. Do not play games. This is not funny. You cannot cancel our flights." I stared at her words. "You cannot," as if the tickets had been handed down on stone tablets not purchased with my labor. I took another screenshot, this time of Silver Elk Chalet with the giant reservation canceled banner and the refund amount circled. Sent! For a while, all I saw were the dancing dots under different names. Messages started coming in so fast. My phone buzzed continuously. "Mom, fix it. Dad, put it back. Camille. Call whoever you need to call." "This has gone far enough, Olivia. Are you insane? The kids are crying. You have ruined Christmas for what? Because you do not want to help." I typed, fingers steady. "You told me if I was not willing to be a full-time babysitter, I was not welcome. I accepted your boundary. I will not be there. Neither will my wallet." Dad called me then. His name flashed across my screen with that old familiar jolt of dread in my chest. When I was little, if Dad used my full name in that tone, it meant I had to fix something fast. Clean the mess. Calm my sister. Apologize. I answered. "Hello. What exactly do you think you are doing?" he said without preamble, voice already raised. "You do not cancel a family Christmas because your feelings got bruised." "I canceled a trip I paid for." I said. "There is a difference." "You are acting like a child," he snapped. "Your sister is exhausted. She was counting on you. You know she has 4 kids." "Yes," I said, "I am aware. She reminds me every hour." "You are single. You have no real responsibilities," he said. "You sit at a computer, and now suddenly you think you are better than everyone because you have some money. This stunt is going to have consequences, Camille." There it was. The threat? "What kind of consequences?" I asked quietly. "If you are going to act like you are not part of this family, perhaps you should not come around at all," he said. "Do not bother coming by for Sunday dinner. Do not expect us to come running when you call. You want to be alone so badly. Fine. Be alone." I held the phone a little away from my ear, studying the angry red bar on the screen, as if it were some interesting new network anomaly. "Okay," I said. "If the price of belonging is servitude, I am not interested in the membership." "You watch your tone with me." I hung up. I stood there in my kitchen phone in my hand, waiting for lightning to strike. It did not. The world stayed quiet. My lamp hummed softly. The city glowed beyond my window. I had just done the one thing I had spent my entire life avoiding. I had refused. And nothing broke except their illusion of control. The next wave came fast. When guilt and threats fail, my family has one last trick: panic. My phone buzzed non-stop, lighting the dark kitchen like a strobe. "Olivia. Why are Mom's and Dad's cards suddenly not working?" "Mom. My card is being declined. Did you mess with something?" "The bank says the primary holder changed settings." Brad in a separate text I had never seen before. "Hey Cam, wild question. Are the flight refunds hitting your account or something else?" I frowned. Primary holder. My stomach dropped in a different way. I opened my banking app. I have always prided myself on being meticulous. I track my spending. I make spreadsheets. But in the chaos of work and travel, it is easy to let the small, automatic transactions blur together. Tonight I looked hard. Every subscription, every recurring charge, streaming services I barely used clearly on family plans. An online grocery service shipping diapers and snacks to Olivia's address every month. And on my travel rewards card, a string of charges I did not recognize. Gas and Tulsa groceries at a store across town from my parents' place. Chain restaurant dinners on random Tuesday nights when I knew I was on a call in Phoenix. I scrolled back through months. It was all there, hiding in plain sight. Small, consistent siphons. "What did you do?" "Camille." Mom texted again. "I was buying Christmas pajamas for the kids, and the cashier said, 'Issuer declined.'" It was humiliating. I ignored her for the moment and flipped my card over. On the back under my name was a sentence I had never truly registered. Call this number for 24-hour assistance. I did. After the usual maze of automated prompts, a human voice came on. Thank you for calling Platinum Support. This is Claire. How may I assist you tonight, Miss Carter? I am reviewing my statement and seeing transactions from Tulsa that I did not make. I said, keeping my voice even. Can you tell me who is listed as an authorized user on this card? A few keystrokes. I see 2 authorized users, she said, yourself and a Ms. Linda Carter. My mother. I closed my eyes. I could see it so clearly. The day 2 years earlier when Dad had his hip replaced, and Mom had called me sobbing because she had forgotten her wallet while rushing to the hospital. Just read me the numbers, Camille, she had begged. I will pay you back. It is only for his prescriptions and a few things at the gift shop. I swear I will not use it again. I had given her the number. I had even called the bank to make sure her purchases would not be flagged. Is her authorization temporary? I asked. No, ma'am, the agent said. She is listed as a permanent authorized user. A physical card was mailed to her address. How much has her card been used this year? I asked, even though I already had a terrible guess. More typing. For the card, ending in 3862. Total year-to-date spend is $14,600. $14,000, almost half a year of my mortgage payments. Thank you, I said. I would like to remove that authorized user immediately and then cancel this card entirely and have a new one issued with a new number. The agent hesitated. Just to confirm, removing an authorized user will cause their physical card to stop working. Any automatic payments linked to the old number will also decline when we issue the new card. That is the idea, I said. Within minutes, the plastic umbilical cord tying my financial life to my mother's wallet was cut. Then I went hunting for the rest. I logged into my Amazon account and went straight to subscriptions. Monthly diaper deliveries to Olivia's address billed to me. Snack boxes. Cleaning supplies. 3 years of just this once. Can you help us out? We are short this month, enshrined as permanent withdrawals. I canceled them. I changed every password on every shared account from streaming services to grocery apps. Netflix family plan downgraded to a single screen. Everyone else signed out. Music streaming individual only. Within half an hour, my entire family lost access to an invisible web they had been tangling me in for years. My phone buzzed frantically. Mom. My card is still not working, the bank said. I am no longer on the account. What did you do? Olivia, Netflix just logged us out. Did your card get hacked, Brad? Hey, about those flight refunds, can we talk? I answered Brad first, because something about his earlier text had a particular stink to it. Hey, Brad, I wrote, the refunds come back to the card that paid for the trip. Mine, why? It took him a minute. Then, we kind of counted on that trip for our budget, he wrote. We used the holiday bonus on something else because lodging and food were covered. If the trip is really off, and you are keeping the refund, we are in trouble. Something else. I pressed. What did you buy, Brad? Another long pause. The dots appeared, vanished, came back. Okay, do not freak out, he wrote. We put a down payment on a used pontoon boat for the lake house we want one day. We figured with the trip covered, we could finally do something fun for us. We also skipped setting aside grocery money for the 2 weeks we were going to be at the chalet. We thought, you would not mind. You thought I would feed house and entertain your whole family for 2 weeks, I typed. And that would free you up to buy a boat. We deserve something nice, he wrote. You make so much you will not even notice 8 or 9 grand. There it was. You will not even notice. I sat back in my chair. For years I had framed my help as generosity, a gift. In their minds it was income. Predictable, owed. I did not respond to Brad. Instead, I opened a new note on my phone and started saving screenshots. The boat confession. Olivia's we do not need someone who just comes to eat and leave. Mom's card panic. Dad's exile threat. If there is one thing my job has taught me, it is this. When you deal with liars, you document everything. I had a feeling I was going to need it. Mom was next. When manipulation fails, she switches to martyrdom. Camille, the bank says you removed me from your card, she texted. After everything we have done for you, how could you humiliate me like this at Target? I was just buying pajamas for your niece and nephews to cheer them up since you ruined their trip. I took a sip of the now room temperature wine I had finally poured into a glass. It tasted dull. I poured it down the sink and filled the glass with water instead. If I was going to burn down a system, I wanted my mind sharp. I typed, you have spent more than $14,000 on my card this year. Without my knowledge, I wrote. Then you handed that card to Olivia to use. That is not cheering them up, Mom. That is theft. Her response was instant. Oh, stop, she wrote. It was never that much. The bank always exaggerates. It was for essentials, groceries, gas, medicine. Your father's doctor visits, do you want him to suffer? There it was, the old familiar knife. I remembered every time she had used Dad's health as a crowbar. Come home for Thanksgiving, your father could die any day. He was still golfing 3 times a week. You cannot move to Phoenix. What if something happens to him? What happened was he got a new hip and used my card to celebrate at a steakhouse. I typed, Target is not a doctor, I wrote. Diapers are not your prescriptions, and groceries for Olivia's 4 children are not your essentials. You did not tell me about any of it. That is not what family does. You always count every penny, she wrote back. You have turned cold. We raised you better than this. What is yours is ours. That is how family works. You will understand when you have children. I stared at that line. What is yours is ours. That was the core of it. They saw my success as communal property, my income as a family asset, my time as unclaimed territory. Maybe I should have been more shocked. Instead, I felt oddly calm. No, I wrote, that is how a cult works. In a healthy family, adults pay their own bills. They ask before using someone else's card. They do not threaten to cut their child off because she will not play nanny for free. I paused, then added, You are no longer on my card. All the essentials you have been billing to me are your responsibility now. If you actually need help, you can ask politely. But the days of you quietly treating my accounts like a bottomless well are over. My phone stayed silent for almost 10 minutes, long enough for me to put the kettle on the stove and sink onto the couch, suddenly so tired I felt hollow. I thought about the version of this story Mom would be telling later to the extended family. How her ungrateful daughter ripped the credit card out of her hands right before Christmas. How she had no idea she was doing anything wrong. How she only ever did it for the children. They were going to paint me as a villain no matter what I did, so I might as well be the kind that survives. Finally, the phone lit up again. Olivia, Netflix still will not let us in. We cannot afford all these separate subscriptions, Camille. Put it back. Dad, I spoke to your mother. You went too far. You do not cut your parents off. I do not care what she spent. Fix it, Brad. So, about the boat. Maybe we can work something out. I flipped my phone face down. Enough. For the first time in my adult life, I did not scramble to put the fire out. I let it burn. The next day, I did something radical. I turned my notifications off. Not just the sounds, the whole thing. Messages, group chats, social media. When I walked into the Vertex Shield offices, the world shifted gears. There my skills translated into respect and paychecks. No one expected me to work for free because we were like family. No one handed me their password and insisted we all share one account because it is easier. At lunch, my friend and former teammate Jules slid into the chair across from me in the cafe. She had begged me to come back to the office more instead of working from home. You need humans, she always said. Preferably ones who do not share your DNA. You look like you slept for once, she said, biting into a sandwich. Did the Carter clan finally book a hotel without your intervention? I laughed a quick, sharp sound. The opposite, I said. I canceled Christmas. Her eyebrows shot up. Tell me everything. And so I did. I told her about the text, the ultimatum, the cancellation, the boat, the stolen card. Her eyes widened with every sentence. You did all of that in one night, she said when I finished. Security engineer, I said. When we see a breach, we close it. Camille, she said softly, this is not a breach. This is a whole hostile occupation. For a moment, I saw my life the way an outsider might. Years of quietly covering bills. Hours of unpaid labor with kids who called me fun auntie while their parents rolled their eyes at my easy singleness. A literal 5-figure charge total on a card my mother had once sworn she would only use for a day. It is weird, I said. I should feel guilty, terrified. Instead, I just feel tired and done. Done is good, she said. Done is how you get to something better. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You know, none of this is normal, right? She added. You know your life is not supposed to be a revenge story you tell on Reddit, right? I smiled at that. I do now, I said. That night, instead of obsessively checking the group chat, I went to Jules's house. She and some of our old team were having a low-key pre-holiday potluck. Her bungalow was small and imperfect, mismatched plates, second-hand furniture, but the air was warm and easy. People refilled their own drinks. They said thank you when someone passed the salt. At one point, Mark, one of our former network guys, asked casually, "So going home for Christmas, Cam?" I opened my mouth to give my usual script: flight times weather worries, jokes about Midwest winters. Instead, I heard myself say, "No, not this year, I'm staying in Phoenix." "Nice," Leo said, clinking his beer against mine. "Less travel, more sleep. That is revenge against capitalism." They laughed. They had no idea the revenge I was actually plotting. Because as much as I wanted to wash my hands of my family forever, there was still one thing snagging at me. Something my aunt had mentioned in passing at Thanksgiving, just before my mother shot her a look that could curdle milk. "Once your parents sign the papers on the new will, Olivia will be set," Aunt Mary had said. "The house, the lakeland, that little family business. That girl falls into money like it is nothing. But at least they are finally putting it on paper. You are still doing the power of attorney thing for them, right, Camille?" At the time, I had laughed it off. Sure, I had said I sign whatever they shove in front of me. The memory made me nauseous now. What exactly had I signed? And how deep did my unpaid labor go? I excused myself from the living room. Chaos stepped out onto Jules's back porch and called Aunt Mary. She answered on the second ring. "Camille, heard you canceled the big snow trip," she said. "Your mama is fit to be tied." I know I said I am sure I will be the villain of every family story until Easter, Aunt Mary. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, honey. What do you know about their will?" There was a pause. I could almost hear her choose between loyalty and her love of drama. "Well, I am not supposed to say, but since you asked," she said. "They met with my lawyer last spring. Put the house and the land into a trust that will eventually go to Olivia and the grandkids. They said you do not need it because you are doing so well, but they made you co-trustee and gave you power of attorney because, in your father's words, Camille handles that stuff." "Why?" My hand tightened around the railing. "So, not only were they planning to leave everything to my sister because I was too successful to need an inheritance, they were also planning to use me as the mechanism to manage it." "Of course. I was just wondering," I said evenly. "You know me, I like to know where the bodies are buried." Aunt Mary laughed delighted. "Well, one thing about your parents," she said. "They have always assumed you would be there. They better be careful. Quiet kids can turn, you know." When I hung up, the air felt thinner. This was no longer just a story about a ruined holiday. This was about a lifetime of being cast as the reliable background character, while my sister got the starring role and the estate. It was a betrayal that sank all the way into my bones. And for the first time, I started thinking not just about walking away, but about flipping the script in front of everyone. Sunday dinner at my parents' house had always been sacred. Roast chicken, green beans, some kind of pie. Football on the television. Dad in his recliner, Mom bustling, Olivia breezing in. Late kids tumbling through the door like a circus. If you missed Sunday, you heard about it all week. After Dad's threat on the phone, "Do not bother coming by if you do not fix this," I had assumed I was disinvited. Then Aunt Mary texted me on Saturday. "They are expecting you tomorrow," she wrote. "Your father says you need to come face the music. You coming." Normally, the idea of facing the music there would make my throat close. But now I had a folder full of screenshots, printouts of credit card statements, and the business card of a lawyer I had met with Friday afternoon. A lawyer who had calmly explained that power of attorney can be revoked at any time, that co-trustees are not indentured servants, and that my parents' new will did not obligate me to manage Olivia's eventual inheritance. "You have more leverage than you think," the lawyer had said, sliding the documents back across the desk. "You just have to be willing to use it." So when I pulled up to my parents' house on Sunday evening, my heart was pounding, but not from fear, from resolve. The driveway was full. Brad's truck, Mom's aging sedan, my father's beloved pickup with the world's best grandpa sticker. Inside the house smelled like rosemary and resentment. "Look who decided to show up," Dad called from the living room as I stepped in. His voice was lighter than it had been on the phone, but the undertone was there. "Thought you might be too busy counting your gold." Olivia was at the table, arms crossed, face tight. She did not look at me. The kids were unusually quiet eyes, flicking between adults, picking up on the tension the way kids always do. Mom wiped her hands on a dish towel and tried for a brittle smile. "Sit," she said. "We are eating. We can talk afterward." "No," I said gently. "We are going to talk now before anyone acts like this is a normal Sunday." Dad's eyes narrowed. "Do not come into my house and start with that tone." I took a breath. When I speak at work, presenting an incident report to executives or walking the board through a mitigation plan, I have a voice I use. Calm, clear, unapologetic. I use that voice now. For more than a decade, I said I have done everything you asked. I booked flights. I fixed routers. I sent money when you said you were short. I let Mom use my card just this once and never saw it come back. I did it because I thought that is what family did. I thought we were a team. I thought love meant bailing each other out. I pulled the printouts from my bag and laid them on the table. Here is what that has looked like on paper this year. Line after line of charges. Diapers, groceries, restaurant meals, gas, streaming bills, all amounting to that obscene total, $14,600. Mom's face went white. You had no right. I had every right, I said. It is my account. You have been using it without my consent. That is not, what is yours is ours. That is exploitation. Olivia snorted. Oh, give me a break, she said. You make double what Brad and I do. You live alone in a condo. You do not have kids to feed. Of course you are going to help. That is what sisters do. Help, I repeated. You mean pay for your vacations, your subscriptions, your groceries, and your boats. Boat Aunt Mary gasped from the doorway where she had apparently been eavesdropping. Brad shifted in his chair, flushing. We work hard, he muttered. We deserve something nice. And you were paying for the chalet anyway. What difference does it make if we put our bonus towards something else? That is exactly the point, I said. You did not ask. You decided my labor and my money were permanent subsidies for your life. When I canceled the trip, after you told me I was only welcome if I acted as unpaid childcare, you did not say, "We are sorry we were wrong." You said I had ruined Christmas and demanded I send you the refunds. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots, laying them like cards in a poker game. Olivia's ultimatum. Brad's boat confession. Mom's target meltdown. Dad's threat of exile. The room went very quiet. The only sound was the ticking clock and a cartoon on low volume in the background. Dad's jaw worked. So what he said finally, you want us to grovel. Do a little revenge dance. Is that it? You know we were going to take care of you in the will. This little tantrum is not going to change that. I looked at Aunt Mary, who suddenly found the linoleum very interesting. I know exactly what the will says, I replied. Aunt Mary filled me in. The house, the lakeland, the little family business, all earmarked for Olivia and the children. You two assumed I did not need it. You assumed my role was to manage it, to sign papers, to be power of attorney when things go bad. Free legal muscle and financial oversight. No equity. Mom's mouth opened and closed. It is not like that, she protested weakly. You have always been so successful. We thought you would rather see your sister settled. We were going to make sure you were taken care of. Another way. Maybe a small policy? You do not even want children. That is exactly what it is, like I said. You have spent years telling me I am so lucky to be free to be single, to have my big job. But every time you needed something, you treated that freedom as your savings account. My time, my energy, my money. Never yours. I paused, then I put the final card on the table. So here is what is going to happen. I said I met with my own lawyer this week. I am revoking every power of attorney and co-trustee role immediately. If you want Olivia to have everything, that is your right. But she can hire her own attorney. I will not be your built-in banker anymore. I will not be guardian of some family business I never benefited from while she and her husband buy boats. Dad's face darkened. You would let this family business fall apart out of spite, he demanded. You would really let your sister drown just to get some petty revenge. What I am doing? I said, still in that calm, clear voice, is stepping out of a role I never agreed to. If you want help, you can ask. Respectfully, with terms, with clarity. Not as a birthright. And if you want a relationship with me, it has to be one where I am a person, not an asset. The kids stared at me with wide eyes, picking up on words like business and drown in revenge, but not the nuance. For their sake, I softened my tone just a fraction. This is not about money, only, I added. This is about years of being told my needs are always last. Of being told my life is easy because I can close my front door and hear silence. of being told my worth is measured in plane tickets and babysitting hours. I straightened. So here are my boundaries. I am not the automatic babysitter. I am not the family bank. I am not the default name on your credit cards or legal documents. If that means you never speak to me again, that will hurt. But it will hurt less than continuing like this. You could have cut the air with a butter knife. Then Mom started to cry. Real tears, big and messy. It would have gutted me once. Now I saw the edge of calculation behind it. Everyone is attacking me, she sobbed. I was just trying to keep things afloat. You know, your father is not good with money. I thought you understood. I thought you would want to take care of us. We are your parents. You would not have anything without us. I thought about the years of quietly sucking it up, the extra shifts, the migraines, the nights alone in my condo wondering why it never felt like enough. I will not argue that you gave me life. I said you did, and I am grateful. But that does not mean you own it. I pushed my chair back. I am going to leave now. I finished. You can call me when you are ready to talk like adults, without ultimatums, without threats. Without treating my boundaries like betrayal, I gathered my folder, my phone, my keys. At the door, Noah's small voice piped up. Aunt Cammy. I turned. Yes, buddy. Does this mean no snow ever? He asked, lower lip wobbling. That one pierced right through the armor. I knelt so we were eye level. It means not this year, I said softly. But I promise you one day, when the grown-ups are not being silly, I will show you real snow. Just you and me. He sniffled, then nodded solemnly like we had just made a treaty. I stepped out into the cool Oklahoma evening, my heart heavy and strangely light at the same time. Behind me, voices were rising again, blame bouncing around the walls of that house like it always had. Only this time I was not going to run back in and absorb it. I got in my car, turned the key, and drove toward a life that, for the first time, might actually belong to me. I spent New Year's Eve on my balcony in Phoenix, wrapped in a blanket, a mug of hot cocoa between my hands. From my 12th floor, I could see the city spread out in lights, quiet for once. A few fireworks popped early over the horizon, small bursts of color that reminded me of the fantasy I had built for my family. Firelight on a stone fireplace, snow sparkling outside, the smell of pine and prime rib, laughter that did not have jagged edges. I mourned it. It felt important to admit that this was not a cartoon revenge story where I cackled while cutting their cards. It hurt. It hurt to know that the people who were supposed to protect me had instead treated my success as an endless resource to exploit. It hurt to see clearly that my sister saw me not as a trusted friend, but as a permanent staff member. But under the grief, there was something else blooming: space. With the family group chat muted, my days stretched different. I woke up and did not immediately check for assignments. I worked, came home, cooked what I wanted, watched what I wanted, without someone piggybacking on my account. I went hiking with Jules. I joined a book club full of women in their 50s and 60s, women who had survived their own family dramas, divorces, betrayals, late in life, returns to school. Listening to them talk about boundary setting and reinvention was like getting a glimpse of my future self. One evening over wine and cheesecake, one of them, a silver-haired retired judge named Mary Ann, listened to the outline of my story and shook her head. They are counting on inertia, she said. They are counting on the fact that you love them more than you love yourself. The moment you refuse to play your role, they will call it betrayal. Let them. Betrayal is their word for, you stopped letting me use you. What if they never come around, I asked. What if they do not change another woman? Denise said. Would you really want to go back to being their unpaid attorney, nanny, and banker? Sometimes the tables turn and stay turned. That is called justice. Justice. It was a word I understood intellectually in cybersecurity, in stories about inheritance and wills and betrayal on the internet, but I had never applied it to myself. Now I did. By the time tax season rolled around, I was already in a very different headspace. My accountant, a precise woman with a dry sense of humor, raised her eyebrows at how much less I had spent on miscellaneous support for family than the year before. New strategy, she asked. New boundaries, I replied. At work, I took on a new project leading a team instead of just being the fixer. For the first time, my title matched the reality of what I did. When my director praised my ability to set expectations and maintain healthy limits, I almost laughed. If only she knew. Messages still came from home. Long paragraphs from Mom about how hard it was now that we do not have your help. Snarky one-liners from Olivia about corporate Camille choosing money over family. At one point, Dad sent a photo of the house and wrote, "Remember, this could have all been yours to take care of one day. Do not say I did not warn you when you are old and alone." I looked at that photo for a long time. The sagging roof, the cramped kitchen, the garage full of junk, everything they protected like a dragon protects a moldy hoard. Then I thought about my own small but growing portfolio. A condo that would be paid off early now that I was not secretly funding 2 households. A retirement account. My father did not understand an emergency fund that was finally actually for emergencies. I deleted the message. I did not argue. They had made their choice. So had I. The real twist came almost a year later. It was September, still blistering hot in Phoenix, when my phone buzzed with an unknown Oklahoma number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, in between meetings, I listened. "Hi, Ms. Carter. This is Allison from the office of Benton and Reed. We handle your parents' estate planning. We have been trying to reach you by mail about your role as co-trustee and power of attorney. There are some urgent financial matters regarding the family business and the lake property that require your signature. Please call us back." I smiled. And for the first time in my life, it was not a weary, resigned smile. It was sharp. I called them back. "You may have old documents on file," I explained, "but as of last December, I revoked all power of attorney and co-trustee roles. I am happy to have my lawyer send over the paperwork. I am not involved in any of my parents' financial matters any longer." There was a pause. "I see," the woman said, flustered. "They seemed quite certain of your participation." "I am sure they were," I said. "But as you know, consent can be withdrawn." Later that week, Aunt Mary called me, voice buzzing with gossip and a barely hidden edge of schadenfreude. "They are in a mess," she said. "The business is underwater, the taxes on the lake land are overdue, and they assumed you would swoop in and fix it. Your father marched into the lawyer's office red as a beet when they told him he could not just sign your name on things." "I am sorry things are hard," I said. "And I meant it, but I am not responsible for saving them from their own choices." "Well," she said slowly, "for what it is worth, your cousins are on your side. They have seen how they lean on you. Maybe one day your folks will get their heads on straight. Maybe, maybe not." I did not hang my peace on that. I could not. That night, sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop open, reviewing a proposal for a promotion that would move me into a director role, I realized something. For the first time since I was big enough to carry a grocery bag, my life was not organized around anticipating someone else's next crisis. No frantic texts about babysitting, no surprise charges on my card, no last-minute travel requests that were actually demands. The revenge, if you wanted to call it that, was not in the canceled trip or the cut card. It was in the absence, the empty space where their chaos used to live in my head. I had always thought that setting boundaries would make my world smaller. Instead, my world had expanded. More time for friends, for reading, for hiking, for dreaming a life that did not center around whether my parents thought I was a good daughter or my sister thought I was useful. I still grieved sometimes. Family drama does not erase the part of you that remembers the rare nights things were good. The summer we all camped out in the backyard, the way Dad used to dance with me in the kitchen before money and favoritism and manipulation poisoned everything. But grief is different when you know you are no longer volunteering for fresh wounds. A few weeks before the next Christmas, a message popped up on my phone from an unknown Phoenix number. "Hi," it read. "You do not know me, but I follow your friend Jules on social. She mentioned your story about canceling a family Christmas when they tried to use you as childcare. I have a podcast where women talk about revenge, family drama, inheritance messes, all the toxic stuff. Would you ever consider telling your story, anonymously if you prefer?" I stared at the message for a long moment. Part of me recoiled at the idea of airing my family's dysfunction in public. Another part, the part that had read late-night threads on the internet, where women my mother's age and older described being used up by ungrateful children or spouses, where daughters like me described being cut out of wills because they refused to be doormats, recognize something. Stories save us. We hear someone else walk out of a burning house, and we realize we do not have to die in our own. I agreed. We recorded the episode over video call on a rainy Sunday. I sat in my living room wearing a soft sweater, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, and spoke in the same calm voice I use when I debrief an incident at work. I told the host about the text, the trip, the money, the stolen card, the will. I talked about how long I had confused being useful with being loved. How many years I had believed that my value was in how quickly I jumped when they called. So what was the actual revenge, the host asked at the end? Was it canceling the $49,000 Christmas, cutting the cell phone plan? What was the moment where you felt the tables turn? I thought about it. The real revenge, I said slowly, was realizing that I did not need them as much as they needed me. That I could walk away. That I could build a life where my peace mattered more than their approval. Canceling the trip was just the spark. Choosing myself over and over every time they pushed back. That was the fire. We finished recording. Weeks later, the episode went live. I did not send it to my family. I did not need to. The internet did what it always does. It found its way. One night, Mom left me a voicemail, her tone tight. "I heard your little story," she said. "People are laughing at us online. You made us look like villains." I listened all the way through, then deleted it. Because here is the thing about stories. We do not control how other people behave. We only control whether we let their version be the only one told. So now I am telling mine to you. If you are listening to this, maybe you are the Camille in your family. Maybe you are the Brooklyn, the fixer, the quiet one who pays for the vacation and gets told to be grateful for an invitation. Maybe your siblings are the golden children who always land feet first. Your parents are the ones who talk about family loyalty while quietly draining your accounts. Here's what I want you to hear. You are not an inheritance machine. You are not an unpaid nanny. You are not a line item in someone else's budget or a background character in someone else's Hallmark movie. You are a whole person. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to cancel the trip. You are allowed to cut the card. You are allowed to walk out of the Sunday dinner where they have been carving you up like the roast. And yes, people will call it betrayal. They will call it selfish. They will call it revenge. Sometimes revenge is just justice with better lighting. As for me, this Christmas I am flying to Vermont with a few friends from that book club. Women who survived divorces and inheritance wars and toxic parents and came out the other side fierce and funny. We are renting a small cabin. We are going to drink cocoa and watch the snow and tell stories about the families we left and the families we chose. Maybe someday my parents will call and say the words I used to dream about. "We are sorry. We were wrong. We see you now as more than what you do for us." Maybe they never will. Either way, I am not holding my life hostage waiting for their apology. If you have ever been the invisible one, the reliable one, the one who gets cut out of the will but still gets handed the bills, I hope my story gives you something my family never gave me: permission to choose yourself, to put your name on your own life. And if it does, if you have ever had to become the villain in someone else's story just to be the hero in your own, tell me about it. Somewhere in the comments, in a review, in a late-night message. Like, share, subscribe, as the kids say. Not for the algorithm. For the women like us sitting in quiet kitchens staring at glowing screens, wondering if they are crazy for wanting more than crumbs. You are not crazy. You are not alone. And trust me, when you finally cancel that $49,000 Christmas they think they own, the silence that follows is not punishment. It is peace.